Good morning, YouTubers, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world. Thank you for viewing my videos. We trudge away the main mast, yard arms, slowly but surely. Today I think we'll be done with the yard arms for the main mast. I got the two harder ones finished. Let me turn on the lights. So we can take a peek here. What we accomplished day before yesterday. Took me about 4 hours to get this one all finished up. And it's got the bearings there to go around the mast pole. We'll tie them on when we're ready to install it on the mast. And then the next yard arm up is all ready. It only has the one set of bearings, beads that are acting as a bearing to roll, so the mast can slide, or the yard arm can slide up and down the mast and raise it and lower it. So each one of them's got quite a bit of detail in it, and 10 of these little pulleys plus one double block. I think the other one had 12 plus 2 double blocks. So the last one to finish up, you can see, is not near as bad. We got 6 pulleys up there, and 7 and 8. So we've got them ready to go on. So we got 6 pulleys to make up these 342s. When we did the box opening, we took the time to go through the parts list and find those different items. And whenever they give you an item, they'll give you a total count, like those blocks. So then we had to come back in here and discern, based on the amount, which blocks were which, and then label them on the front of the cover, so when we go to pick some, we know which ones we're picking are the right ones. That was quite a job. So here's the top yard arm for the main mast. We got the stiffeners glued on and the guides. So we'll work on putting on those 6 little blocks and the 2 bigger ones. And as you can see, it took several hours on one day to do that one, and then the next day I did this one. Took several hours to do that. I think we got the orientation correct for the way those things face, as opposed to this rail and the holes and all the other details. It's really hard to discern. So seen me do this before. We'll prep one of these so I can show you. We'll do this 6 times, and we want to leave enough after we tie the block in there so we can make a couple wraps around the yard arm before we tie it off. And I've been using a needle to hold these. This works really good. Get that basic granny knot. And then cinch it where the knot is opposite of the hole. And then do another granny knot and lock it in. And that's one. So we gotta do that 5 more times. And then we can set up and mark the yard arm where they go, and then tie them on. And that'll take care of the top yard for the main mast. Fun fact, did you know that the HMS Bounty was set up or retrofitted by the British for the ability to carry 629 breadfruit plants from Tahiti? They were going to ship to the West Indies. And there was only a crew of 49 men. Normally on these big sailing ships like the San Juan there, it had 400 men. Imagine 400 people living on there. So what I do it on the end here because I like to make the ropes look extra thick. I'm looking for my tweezers. Extra thick where we're tying on these different blocks. A little dab of super glue on there. And we can cut this tail. So because there's a length here that you probably want to try to match, I just tied a granny knot in the line where that length lines up with the end of the yard. And that makes it easy to understand the starting point. Now, where these cleats are, these pulley ropes extend opposite of where the cleats are, so we want to make our knot to allow for that direction that they want to be left in when the knot's done. So in the year 1788, Captain Bligh, who was not a very good people person, was commissioned to go to the Tahiti Islands and get these breadfruit plants. Oh no. Well, there's still a hole there. See if we can save that. Captain Bligh was an excellent navigator. Like I said, he wasn't a very good people person, and when you're a captain of a ship at sea, you want to have the loyalty of your men, not be disgruntled with you. And what led to the mutiny on the Bounty was a dispute over coconuts. They used coconuts for part of their provisions. I don't remember how many coconuts were missing, but some coconuts were missing, and Captain Bligh was really being a jerk about it, to the point where he was lining guys up on the deck and whipping them. Well, that was the final straw. And Fletcher Christian, who was one of the lead sailors, got together some men and they led a mutiny. Fletcher Christian was a surgeon on the ship. So now I'm looking at the orientation back here of the yard arm, and I want to tie these 6 little pulleys on I got ready here. So it appears that these 2 cleats are facing down. So if they are facing down and we want the pulleys facing back toward us, and I'm assuming if those are facing down, these are facing up. Why doesn't it show that? Because here they're opposite. That's what I mean by the confusion, the proper orientation. So I go around twice with that one. I'm going to take a little counterweight, put on there. And I'm gonna let my knot tie in the back here. So we'll go around with that one time. Hold that in what we think is the right spot. And I want to try to get a double granny knot there. And then do a single on top of it. Cut our tail off. See, with that counterweight holding one side, it keeps it from the slack from coming loose on the yard there while you're working. We got some big thick ropes we're going to tie around. Use some of this larger thread and we'll tie around. Just make like 4 wraps on that stiffeners there. 1, 2, buckle your shoe. So when Fletcher Christian got some of the other sailors together with the intent of taking over the ship, because Captain Bligh was other than a good navigator, he was sort of a bleeding idiot when it came to working with people. And there was a few loyalists that stood with the captain. So Fletcher Christian put him in the launch and set him adrift. Now, because Captain Bligh was a good navigator, even though they were just in that little teeny launch boat, he was able to sail that launch boat more than 1,000 miles to a British colony. Eventually made it back to Britain. I don't remember what the colony was they made it to. It was more than 1,000 miles. Oh, the island was 10 more. So Fletcher Christian had the ship now, and he threw all the bread plants overboard. And they sailed 1,300 miles to Pitcairn Island, which today there are still descendants of Fletcher Christian's family on the island. And once they got there, they scuttled the ship, burned it, set it afire out there off the coast of the island, sunk it. Captain Bligh knew he was in the right to the maritime law. The government commissioned him to have another ship to sail and try to chase them down and find them. And that ship sunk off of the Great Barrier Reef in Australia somewhere. So they never did find Fletcher and his mutineers that had escaped to Pitcairn Island. So there's a lot of history behind that ship. Okay, now I'm looking at the plans to see about where this block goes compared to the end and the other blocks before I tie this knot. So if you look in my playlist on my channel, you'll see some documentaries about the HMS Bounty that I've found on the internet. There's quite a history there. I always glue the tail of my knots immediately upon tying them. 'Cause if you don't, I guarantee you, I'd say 5 times out of 10 that thing will come loose later on. Especially if you're using cotton only thread. I'm trying to crisscross these wraps as I go around there to help with the locking of this knot. And it creates a little thick looking rope wrapped around the yard. Get a double granny knot. Pull that tight. Even though that's spinning around, after we do the last granny knot, before we glue it, we'll put it in the right position. See how I roll them two tails together before I cut? Get that facing out that direction. A little bit too much glue there. So Fletcher Christian was shot in the back while he was working in his garden. Years and years later. He was probably an old man by then. So these last two, yeah, we got long ones on the end and we got some short ones on the end. I can't imagine that that is the same one as this. It's the same kind of block, but this has got cinching on it that we installed. And this one doesn't. So we're just going to tie another one on the end there, facing the opposite. Facing the opposite of these that are here now. So that means I want them facing this way. And I want to put them on the inside of where this is at now. Around once. And on this side, get my counterweight. Get that in position, get this out of the way. Go 1, 2, pull it tight. This thread is not part of the kit for this model. All the stuff in the model is cotton, and I will use a lot of it in a lot of places when we start doing the standing rigging and the rest of the rigging. But for tying these little blocks on, and a lot of places I'll use this stuff instead. It's 25% cotton and button and carpet poly cotton. Zoology. Made in Europe. I think it's 25% cotton and 75% polyester, so it's really strong. Cotton breaks easy, and it's so fuzzy you have to wax it to make it look good. That's why you work with it. If you don't wax it, it gets all fuzzy. Oh. Before we do that, we don't want to forget to glue this. Just a little dab on the tails to keep it from coming loose. Yep, on that one facing up and these facing down, so we do the same with this last one here. Awkward. This time come around the other side of the block. Oop. Start all over again. Good grief. I watch a lot of other guys on YouTube building their ships, and everybody struggles with different kinds of situations like this. So I don't feel too bad. This is part of the reason it takes so long to build one of these things. Sometimes you have to start over 2 or 3 times just fumbling away with it. 1, 2, buckle your shoe. 3, 4, open the door. I guess that's what it is, huh? Hold that baby tight. Cut that without cutting anything else. The glue on there. I don't know if anybody's ever seen a real live breadfruit plant or tasted the breadfruit plant. If you have, please, in the comments. Oh, I scraped that up pretty good. So we got to tie some wraps around the stiffeners. We've got to do the bead necklaces for the bearing, and then we got to do some foot ropes for them guys to stand on. And these 2 outside ones are going to go outside the edge of these cleats. I'll do a simple granny knot, but leave enough tail here to tie off after I do some wraps. 3, 4, adjust that position. You see how I made the wraps over the top of the tail. There's another way to do this that's a little more streamlined in the way it looks when you're done, but it takes a little more time. And for these spots, really isn't going to show. Gotta keep that from coming loose while I do this knot here. And then there's a double granny knot at the beginning and a single knot to lock it. So we got 2 more of those to do. Foot ropes. And the bead bearing. Nothing like some new tools. You get excited when you get new tools. Some new crescent cutters. My other ones are really bad. These aren't even crescent, but they're tore up pretty good. I got another blue pair of crescent cutters, but they're messed up real bad. These I use a lot. I got 3 pairs of them. I like having new tools. Keep dropping it. Voila. And get this last one done here. I'm going to start on the forward mast next week. that in the middle. Don't blow up the knot. I'm famous for blowing up knots. There's my faithful internet YouTube followers. Oh, when we were building that San Juan, we blew up knots right and left. That little cotton thread. So now we have to do our foot ropes, and they are on the same side as these pulleys, so it's always easier to tie the knot in the back. We'll just cut this in half. We want the lead out of the knot though to be on the same side as the pulley is. So we'll let that pull tight there in the front. And this goes all the way to the tail. So I pre-do a granny knot close to where the tie-off point is. You want about that much slack. That's just about right. We'll pull this around, feet underneath, and do a slip knot. Oop, pull it too much. The only reason I like this brand better than the other ones, I don't know if it's a better product or not, but inside there is a little plastic pin that goes into the mouth of this opening, and that keeps that glue from setting up. Each time you put the lid back on, it's blocking that glue from coming out, and it's helping it from drying up on the end there. I do have to clean it off all the time, but at least I'm not. The other tubes I was using, Gorilla Glue, one problem is they ran out too quick for the money. It's $5 a tube and only lasts me a couple weeks. The other problem is I'd have to take a drill bit every now and then and drill out the opening because the glue was set up in there. This tube I like because I don't have to do that with. Made by DAP. It's just I don't think it's a super glue, but it sure feels like it when you get it on your fingers. Yeah, cyanacrylate, so it's definitely a super glue. It's got a gel form instead of a liquid, so. Sort of just eyeballing where that's a little bit too much. There you go. So like that, and let's just see if we can do another simple granny knot, and that'll be it. Yep. Yep, keep that away from that. We don't want that getting glued. Because this is facing down when it's mounted on the ship. That's what they stand on. While they're working on the sails. So let me grab some beads in this bead box. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. 9 little beads. Six, 8, 10. The rest there are for the foremast, I guess. And that one gaff that I didn't put them on yet for the rear mast. Now we will need some more of this fat thread. This thread is left over from the San Juan up there. I'm looking for the this is the thread that came with the HMS Bounty. I got 2 rolls of this. And for all the standing rigging that is going to be on these masts and the bowsprit and all that, we're going to use this stuff because it's even fatter than it'll look better because it's fatter, but it's almost too fat for stuff like we're doing here. So I don't want to use the real thin stuff. This is right in the middle, and this will be for all the standing rigging. And the rat lines will be smaller. That'll go tie in between these. They call them shrouds, and standing rigging, which is the rigging that doesn't get adjusted as the ship is sailing. Holds everything straight and strong against the wind. So we got a fish so it won't fall off. I'm gonna tie a couple granny knots to create a stop for these beads. And then let's try my brand new crescent pliers. It's like 1:30 in the afternoon here in Florida, and it's .90 degrees in the shade. So I got the fans cranking. There's one over by the door of the shed that's moving a lot of air in the shed. And then I got one in the window that's exhausting out through the window. That creates a good airflow in here. If it gets much hotter than this, I'll shut the doors and turn the air conditioner on. I just don't like running AC while I'm filming because it's loud. So this acts as a bearing. It will tie on to the yard there, and as that yard slides up and down the mast and they adjust it, it'll roll on those beads. I don't know what they would have used in real life, if those were made out of wood or metal or something. I don't know. If you know, leave a comment. So this bead bearing is going to be opposite of the cleats, according to the drawing there. And tied off at the beginning of the mouth of the cleats. So we'll tie off this one side. Yeah, I want to leave the longer side for the final tie off when we install the yard on the mast later on. Before we put the yard on the mast, we're going to sew the sail to the yard while it's down here on the bench. And I'm just tying another granny knot on the far end of that bead run to lock those in place so they can't go anywhere before we tie this on the ship or on the yard. It's like this day and age, with all the weird things going on in America, we've learned more about our government, local and federal. We've learned more about our government in the last few years than we have in our whole life. More than what we learned in school, in civics class. And not only did we learn more about the government, we learned more about the people that are running the government. which makes us more aware as a citizen in our country. It's a good thing. I'm trying to cinch that knot up close to that bead knot. Now I got to get around there. Grab that guy. Bring her in again. Yeah. I think that's good enough with a dab of glue after we cut it. It doesn't seem like a whole lot of beads there for going around the mast post, but this mast post here at the top is going to be pretty skinny. I think it's only like 4 millimeters, so I'm trying to scoot that other knot around a little bit so it's not going to be away the post. Alright, so now according to our plans, we're done with this one. So this week we did finish the main yard for the main mast. What do they call that? 573. Main yard. What do you know? 577 main top yard. Thought this would be the main top yard. 583. I'm trying to adjust the camera here and the thing is slipping in my hand. 583 main top Gallant yard. So this is the top yard, main top yard, and this is the main top Gallant yard. Wonder what Gallant means. That's how I'm learning all these names, is the parts list. Thousands of names. This I don't have all the pages out here, but I think it goes up to like 800, which is way up there. Okay. Well, we'll clean this off, turn it over to the forward mast, the foremast, and start building the masts themselves next week. The foremast. Thanks for watching.